All right, so we're gonna show you how to wrap hands. Jackie's got a really good sized hand, so if you got smaller hands, you might have to use less wrap. If you got bigger hands, you might have to use more. It doesn't really matter, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do, she got the BMT orange because she's a team player. We're gonna turn this over. We want palm up, okay? We're gonna take this middle thing here, we take this loop, we put it all the way down so it's nice and snug. We always go to the thumb side, okay? Thumb side, doesn't matter which hand you go, thumb side. We want the seam up so that it doesn't rub you raw whenever you're punching. So we'll go around the wrist. First thing we do with thumb side and then around the wrist. So we'll go with a nice base of 2, okay? Since this is pretty wrap, we'll go ahead and flip it over so it comes up. If that's not cosmetically important to you, that's fine, but it'll make life easier for us during this video. Now, once I go around the wrist enough times that makes me feel comfortable and she feels comfortable, we'll create an X across the hand. So I'm going from the wrist to the side knuckle, the side of her knuckle. I go across her knuckles on the back side. You can't see, that's okay. And then I come back across here. Now we have a nice X across her hand. We're giving it side support. Now that we've established that X, we're gonna come back and cover this up so it doesn't rub her raw and gives her something to grip onto. So I just come back with this X on a 45. I go across it, kind of flat to the earth. 2 times is usually good enough. If you want to do 3, you can. It all depends on your comfort level, but see how everything's flat, nothing's folded up. Now I'm going to flip her over, okay? So now we're going to start the process. We want to go between the knuckles. Some schools do, some schools don't. This is the video I'm showing you. This is my preferred way of wrapping. So we'll go from the wrist. We'll make sure it doesn't bind up. We're going to split the difference between the knuckle. This will buckle. That's okay for the knuckle side of it. We'll go here. And then we're gonna go, every time we go to the knuckle, we go back and we wrap 1 time around the wrist. So I just got this one, we're going to the next one, okay? I split this, go around there. So notice I'm not keeping it too tight. I'm not pulling this super tight, and I'm not keeping it loosey-goosey. I'm keeping it just snug so that it doesn't cut off for circulation. Around the wrist, the last knuckle. And just as a point, you could go back to the wrist and then start doing some other stuff, but this kind of gives you a little frog webbing. I'm not a big fan of that. So once I hit this first knuckle, or this last knuckle, depending on how you want to look at it, I'll cut back across the grain to the other side and then go around the wrist again. And this creates a nice little cross-section of support, and we'll go back into doing more X's. With what she's got left here, we got about 2 feet left. We can go 1 more X, or we can go 2 more. It's up to you. For right now, I feel like she's in pretty good shape, but I'll go ahead and do it again just so you can see. So I've got about 1 foot left here, maybe a 1.5 foot of wrap. Now I'm gonna go up to her wrist. You can, if you're short on wrap, you can just go ahead and kind of short dog it right there. It's right on top of her wrist. That's fine. That's not a bad thing. It's up to you, your personal preference. But for me, especially if you're newer and you're not great with your punches yet, there's a good chance you roll in your wrist and hurt yourself. So I like to prevent that. So I'm going to keep that from happening by going up here and see I'm hitting another 45. So I'm hitting another X on Jackie's wrist. So now you can see more of her wrist, almost double what we just had was covered, and it's giving her a cone of support, so it's less likely for her to roll her wrist, especially inside a good set of gloves. And then I'm going to come around. Now, some things have some wraps have a wider Velcro. If you put it here and you start boxing, it'll start rubbing up there. I tell you, that's the most annoying thing when you're kickboxing or you're boxing. So make sure whatever Velcro you have is a good inch, a half inch away from the skin. That way, if it rubs up, you won't get hurt. There we go. And I'll make her make a fist for me. I'll kind of just touch it, make sure nothing bounces loose, and then she can give me feedback if it's too tight, if it's not too loose, and then she can make modifications if she wants. So thank you. Peace out. Whoosh.